In this video, we are going to be talking about Jim Carrey. A lot of us have been wondering about his new look, and there's been a lot of speculation online, so I decided to meditate on the information and I want to share with you what I got. My name is Catherine. I'm an energy healer, spiritual coach, and nurse practitioner. I went through an awakening in 2018, and after that, some of these psychic abilities just started to come online, and now I help people with energy healings and client sessions with these turned on abilities now. With Jim Carrey, I almost didn't make a video because to me it was just so obvious what happened, but I tend to forget that what's obvious to me is not obvious to a lot of people, and so I I need to get out of my own head and just, share the information that I get regardless. Of course, if it resonates, then great. If not, that's totally fine. I am not presenting to you any information that has any proof attached to it. It is literally me, your girl, just meditating, getting information, and then sharing it with you. So, we all know who Jim Carrey is, right? He has done so many amazing movies. Ace Ventura 1 and 2. 2 is my personal favorite. Liar Liar, The Truman Show, which is very spiritual. The Grinch, obviously. He has done so many movies and he is so beloved by so many people. But what makes him even more beloved is that he has been trying to expose the Illuminati for a long time. So to give you some background, I've talked about this on my channel before, but he went on the Jimmy Kimmel show and tried to expose the Illuminati. He threw up this symbol here with like his tongue sticking out, right? And he tried to explain to people that the government hires actors and actresses to keep you distracted so that you don't actually know what's going on, but all of it is controlled. If you haven't seen that interview, you should watch it. And then what you should do is you should Google when his girlfriend ended up killing herself shortly after. And if I'm not mistaken, it was like 3 or 4 months after he did that interview. I remembered when all of that happened, and when I went through my awakening, I revisited that whole thing, and I immediately knew that she was murdered. She was murdered to silence him, because that's how they usually work. They'll try different methods to silence anyone that's trying to speak against the Illuminati or to expose them before they end up just killing you altogether. Because they brought you into the organization for a reason. It's because you have a talent. You're very good at being able to sway the public with your acting skills. And so I'm sure you've already gathered that yes, Jim Carrey did join the Illuminati, unfortunately. And it just is what it is, but this is how a lot of them get to the level of fame that they get to. It's with that kind of help. But with that being said, there are some that see the level of evil that organization has, and they try to speak out against it, which is what he was trying to do. And his punishment was his girlfriend committing suicide. And she ended up committing suicide with pills, and then her family tried to take him to court, saying that he's the one that supplied her with the pills. And it was after that he went into seclusion and basically just kind of sort of went crazy. This was the era where Jim Carrey lost his mind and started going into art and just became very secluded. I think he liked the Jim Crazy comment. Anyway, so he, as the human, learned from that experience that he couldn't just say and expose anybody or do anything, because it wasn't him that was going to get punished. It was his loved ones that they were going to come after. And, the Illuminati, the reptilians, they know no bounds of evil. Like they don't care. They will exploit you in any way to keep you under control and to keep you scared. And so from that experience, he had to learn that he just needed to be quiet and just keep to himself. But then he ended up going to red carpet events and saying things like, none of this matters, like, you're not here, I'm not here, like, nobody's here, right? And at the time, people just thought he was sort of losing his mind. And all of Hollywood and all the celebrities around him sort of boasted that narrative, like, oh, he's like totally losing it, okay? Which is all part of the whole thing. So that's some background. So yesterday, as I'm driving home from work, I started thinking about him, and he came into my consciousness, like having a full-on conversation with me, and he wanted to talk to me, and he seemed kind of eager. And I'm driving. It was like a 40-minute drive for me. And so I was like, I can't do this right now. Do you mind if we do this tomorrow? And that way I can really focus and meditate and maybe even make a video about it. He's like, that's perfect. I'm going to make my rounds anyway. Meaning that, unfortunately, he is not living anymore. The real Jim Carrey is not with us anymore, which is why it was so easy for me to have a conversation with him in that way. And what he is saying is that there are other people out there, there are other psychics and channelers and mediums out there that he is connecting to, because he knows about this community. He's known that these abilities in this community has existed for a long time, because he considered himself to be a part of that community. And he wants to get his message out there. So if you start to see psychics and channelers, I think I've already seen a couple. I haven't seen what they have said yet, but I think that there are people posting videos now about them channeling him. So I'm going to watch them, because I always do my own meditation first, and then I watch other people's content just to compare notes. And then that way I don't get distorted with my own meditation from their information. But yes, that is what I have gathered, is that he definitely has passed away. What I saw is that they actually came for him while he was sleeping, just to make it like a quiet replacement, basically. And that, yes, the person that we see now is, in fact, a clone. Cloning has been happening for a very long time. I mean, at least since the 90s. And they have been trying to perfect them, but it becomes difficult, because they just can't make a perfect replica of the person, especially a person who is in the public eye and is studied by a lot of people. And so it's pretty obvious that this new Jim Carrey is a clone. It's not him. And if you watch videos, you can clearly, he looks like he's had Botox and he's had work and things like that, which is how they try to disguise these clones as. But what made it so obvious this time is that this guy's eye color is not the same as Jim Carrey's. Jim Carrey's is brown, and this new guy has like blue or hazel eyes or something. So very, very obvious. So during my conversation with him, he also tried to explain to me that another way that he was trying to expose the corruption was when he was with Jenny McCarthy, and they were trying to expose the truth about vaccines. So I'm sure you guys know, but Jim Carrey and Jenny McCarthy were romantically involved for, I think, like a couple of years. And Jenny McCarthy had a son who she believed was injured by a vaccine and became autistic as a result. They both went on some show. Oh my gosh. It's the really old guy. And it's like colorful dots in his background. And he wears suspenders. I don't remember his name. But they both went on that show to talk about vaccines and how the amount of chemicals that are in the vaccines and like the levels of mercury in the vaccines they're just not necessary. And they were both very passionate, but he tells me that this was another way that he was trying to expose the truth. But they weren't very successful in that campaign. And a reason why they ended up parting is not because they didn't work out necessarily, but it was more to protect one another. I think they could see that they were unsafe doing it together and going so headstrong against the vaccine, pharmaceutical companies and just the whole agenda in general. And so it was just safer for them to kind of go their separate ways and to sort of stay a little bit on the quieter end, just for safety reasons. I remember that very well because I was working as a nurse. I was a fairly new nurse during that time, and I remembered a lot of nurses just talking so much smack about Jenny McCarthy. And I didn't say anything because I just felt like I didn't know enough. But when you go through a spiritual awakening, officially, you start to learn that there are previous times in your life where you were actually starting to wake up. You just didn't realize that that's what was happening. And I remembered being a nurse, a pediatric nurse, and then eventually a pediatric nurse in the emergency room, and me slowly starting to wake up to the truth about vaccines. So anyway, I just remember that. And so I asked him, why is it that they came after you now, of all times? And he said that he was preparing, I'm getting chills. He was preparing to expose them even further in light of the Epstein files. He started to see that people were waking up, and the Epstein files are what really tipped a lot of people off to the truth of what was going on. A lot of people felt like that there was already this conspiracy theory about satanic rituals of eating children and things like that. And so he actually had a plan to not only confirm that all of that is real, but he was going to take it a step further, and he was going to tell the world that he participated in those rituals, that he himself did it. And he basically wanted to expose the truth by telling people how he was participating in them and how he was basically forced to do it. There was a very long time, if not the whole time, that he was in the Illuminati, that he was against all of it. But he was young and he was hungry to be an actor, and that's how they get them. That's exactly how they got Justin Bieber. That's like all of the Disney actors, like that's how they get them, is they're young and they're impressionable and they want to be famous and they want to be rich and they just want to do what they love, and they end up signing contracts, and then they are forced to do things, and when they're forced to do things, they're recorded and they are blackmailed from there on out, and they are basically just owned for the rest of their lives. And he saw that people were starting to wake up to the truth, and because he had failed attempts of trying to expose the truth before, he felt like this was definitely going to get people's attention and wake people up, even if it meant sacrificing his own reputation and the way that people viewed him. He was willing to do it because, in his own words, he had nothing left to lose. And the Illuminati knew that he was planning on doing this, and that if he were to do this, they all knew that people loved him and that people respected him because they saw the kinds of transformation that he's gone through. He saw that these award ceremonies and things like that are bogus and they mean nothing. So people trusted him because of that. They felt like he knew something that a lot of us didn't, but there was just something that he wanted to say and couldn't. And so if he were to say something so wild, as in him admitting to participating in these things, then it was going to really ruin that whole organization. And I think that would have been not even a drop in the ocean, but that would have been a tidal wave of other people coming forward and saying, yeah, they forced me to do it too. And I think they knew the impact that it would have made if he had done that. And so they had to get ahead of it and they decided to kill him. And I think I got really emotional when he shared this because, wow, that's a really big thing to do. To not only share that this is real, but to put yourself out on the line and admit that you participated in these rituals. And the best part is that he wasn't doing it. He wasn't going to do it to save himself. He was going to do it to save humanity. But what's funny is that on a soul contractual level, he was already prepared for them to eliminate him, to prevent him from coming forward again. And in preparation for this, apparently he's been, I personally can't find it, but I have heard a few people say this now, that he's gone on the record saying that if he ever comes out in public, and because he's going into retirement, if he comes out in public, and especially if he looks like he got work done, if he got filler and Botox and plastic surgery and things like that, that to just know that it's not him. Apparently he's gone on the record saying that. And so now, as a soul, he knew that in preparation for him to be eliminated, he was going to make sure that it was going to be so obvious that there couldn't be any more denying of the truth. And I've said this before, that we make contracts with ourselves to have certain events take place within our lifetime, including our deaths. We can plan our death so that it impacts so many people, and it sets a chain of events for other people to have lessons learned and experiences and chapters closed, and so many things can all happen all at once from a person's death. And for him, he set it up that if he could not at least expose them in his lifetime, then his last and final attempt will be that when they murder him and replace him with a clone, it will be so obvious that you just can't deny it. And now he is seeing how so many people can clearly see that he is a clone. And he is calling this, like he says, he is very proud of the work that he's done. He's very proud of all of the movies and all of the gigs that he has done. But he says that this by far is his best work of all. It was his last hurrah going out. And he feels like this definitely was his biggest way of exposing the truth. And I asked him, well, if there's one thing that you would want to share with everybody, what would that be? And all he said was, we did it. Like, it's just crazy because I can feel how proud he is. He is celebrating on the other side. And he doesn't care because he was never scared of death. He didn't care about that. He knew that this was just a simulation. He already knew all that. What he wanted was at least to expose the truth of what was actually happening. Because yeah, he liked the money and the fame, but that was not what was important to him. What was important to him was telling the truth and to be a good person. And so he's literally on the other side celebrating. He feels like that this was a win, that this was a victory. And it's just so refreshing to talk about a celebrity who truly had a good heart and had good intentions for humanity as a whole. And he was willing to sacrifice himself in order to help humanity in general. And he made it very clear that he's very grateful for the spiritual community and the conspiracy theorist community. He's so grateful because he feels like this community are the true unsung heroes of exposing the truth and trying to save the world, essentially. He said he couldn't do it in his lifetime because he was shackled, even though he tried to. He made contracts and it made it so that he couldn't. But there are those of us who chose not to sign contracts and didn't make money and fame as a priority. And because of that, we get to speak freely. And he is very proud of that community. And so he is making his rounds to all of the psychic mediums, all of the people that are trying to connect with him. He is trying to get to every single one of them to have a conversation with all of them and to let them know that it's not him, that he is on the other side, and that he is still trying to fight the good fight. Damn. Just so sweet. It's so weird, right? It's so weird to mourn somebody when they're pretending like he's alive, and he's not. And so it's, what do they call that? Like ambiguous grief, right? It's like we can't even grieve him properly. It's just so messed up. But I don't know. But I'm obviously very emotional and moved by his words and his demeanor. Like he's just so proud, and he feels like humanity is on the right track. Like he feels like humanity is just, the train has left the station and it is not stopping. Human evolution, consciousness evolution, the Great Awakening, it is not stopping. And he definitely feels like he gets to be a part of that now. Like he's been trying to be a part of it, and now he officially is, and he's so proud. He did want to say that there are probably going to be more soon, as in more very obvious clones and more people attempting to speak out. I think there are going to be probably more, from what he is saying, that there are going to be more celebrities that are going to take from his example and try to speak out. At least those that have been wanting to speak out anyway. So I guess we should start expecting more of this to happen. But there are plenty of celebrities out there now that are clearly clones, right? Like Kanye West is obviously a clone. But yeah, I guess we got a lot of love and a lot of approval from Jim Carrey and what we're all trying to do. So I guess just keep up the good work. And he definitely appreciates how much love and just how much admiration people have had for him, and he is really grateful for that. So I personally want to say thank you, Jim Carrey, for what he was at least trying to do. And gosh, just to feel his energy, like he definitely was one of the good ones. Yeah, he made some mistakes and but he was trying to do the right thing. So thanks, Jim Carrey. But I hope you liked the video. Give it a thumbs up if you did. Consider subscribing, and I will see you next time. Bye.